Welcome to the Black Duck Revival Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Wilkins. I'm excited to have you join me as I speak with a fascinating collection of folks, all of whom have in common that they've made a way for themselves by finding an intersection between thoughtful consideration and the tactile work of getting their hands dirty. This is an examination of intention, capability, and craft. It's where philosophy meets the blue-collar work ethic and where I find real value. The episode you're about to listen to was recorded in spring of 2024 at the tail end of my Turkey Bebop for that season. I recorded 2 interviews, one with David Joy and one with Sarah of No Life Till Leather. After that, I took a long break from podcasting. I just needed some time off from that constant drive to produce the next thing. I'm happy to announce, though, that I've started banking new podcast episodes, and you'll start hearing those and seeing them published on your feed in the next few weeks. But I didn't want to lose these interviews because I really enjoyed both of them. So I hope you enjoy them as well. The lost episodes of the Black Duck Revival Podcast. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Black Duck Revival Podcast. This week, here in Western North Carolina, and I'm joined by one David Joy, novelist, turkey hunter, finger slicer, and flathead cat fisherman, also explainer of what a catamount is. But so we'll do the thank yous and stuff, man. David, dude, I've been hanging out at your house and generally bothering you for the last 3 days, and I really appreciate you letting me cap it off with this podcast experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun getting to show you some of the stuff I got to show you in the woods.
No, dude, it's been big fun, man. It's so like basically I came over here. So you're one of the handful of repeat appearances on this podcast, right? It's like on, SNL, they've got like the 5 Timers Club, right? Mm-hmm. You're in the 2nd Timers Club. Who else would that be? That'd be Jay Beyer, Jimmy Flatt. That might be it. And David Joy. But so yeah, I came out here. This is part of my Turkey Bebop this season, and I don't even know if I've really necessarily explained like what my goals were this year, and I've kind of talked in depth with you about it. But like, in years past, kind of my goals had been to just like see a lot of turkeys and like get on a lot of turkeys, and ultimately try and kill
a lot of turkeys,
right? And this year, like basically what I did was I kind of cheated. I went out west so that I could see a lot of turkeys and experience a lot of turkeys and get on them, right? And then this year, for multiple reasons, I wanted to focus on the southeast. I think because, one, we're dealing with namely a different species of turkey. We're dealing with easterns, right? We're also dealing with turkeys in like the stronghold of where their cultural value lies in this country. Right? Like out west, truthfully, man, like they don't give a damn about them. They treat them like possums. Like in Oregon, they've only been there for like 6 years. They're totally introduced. And they're bothersome to people, right? Whereas like here, where I've been like Georgia, Mississippi, now North Carolina, right? These are places where this bird holds a tremendous amount of cultural value, right? Yeah. For like well over 100 years.
Yeah.
And then also like you're dealing with easterns, which are, considered like the wiliest of turkeys. And I would say southern easterns, especially so. And they have very much proven to be so for the last 6 weeks of my experiences. But then also I wanted to hunt with people that had like that I really respected as turkey hunters, that I respected their skill set, and I felt like I could learn a bunch of stuff from. And that's absolutely what's been happening. And then maybe we'll talk about this even more too, but like I also wanted, I kind of had this like side project idea about like me traveling in the Southeast, like, like walking around in the woods in the Southeast in this place, like me, as a person of color or, a black man or whatever. There's like a lot of very complicated living history and living memory associated with these places, right? But I'd say mostly I wanted a turkey hunt and I wanted to see these places. And so, yeah, I don't necessarily need to blow all your spots up or anything, but like, so we can say Western North Carolina.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Say,
and you can, I'm live in Jackson County. I write about Jackson County. I don't leave Jackson County.
Yeah.
And you can come here if you want. There ain't no birds here.
I'm not going home with one.
You'll cover, there are birds, but it takes covering a whole lot of country to get on birds. Unless you've got a substantial amount of private land that's holding them. If you're talking about a public land hunt, it's a very difficult place to hunt. It just is.
Yeah. I mean, you would have to be looking for validation in ways that were not rooted in killing turkeys to want to travel here to turkey hunt.
Yeah.
Definitely. But also, man, I wanted to come and see like your woods,
Yeah.
Like, and I was talking to your partner Ashley, because I'm also writing a story for Backcountry Journal about this trip and about you in particular, and it's because you are very much a person of a place, right? You write about this place, right? You're how many generations North Carolinian?
12 generations.
12 generations, which like I would ask people to like really stop and listen to that. Like 12 generations. One, that can only happen. So, you're talking about like, if you're white in America, if you're not an indigenous person.
Yeah, it means you come from enslavers.
Well, sure.
Most assuredly.
But it definitely means that you had to come from the East. Like Texans can only go back 6 generations, right? Like you've got to be, there's a specific chunk of ground that you could have that many generations, right?
Yeah.
And so like you are very much rooted in a place, your familial history's in this place. We kind of talked about, like with me with Arkansas and Mississippi, specifically those Delta regions, because I'm the second generation in my family. I'm the second generation out that was born outside of those places, right? And I'm the first one to come back to them. And I feel kind of this like ancestral pull to those places. Like they feel familiar to me, right? In a way that's bigger than just, this is kind of like where I live. Because, I don't want to get too sidetracked in that. But, man, so before we get into like the turkey hunting stuff, which ended up being like really kind of like spectacular, and like I told you, man, like just the decompressing time I'm going to have driving back and thinking about it's going to be a lot. But I think the thing I liked most about walking around the woods with you is you do something that most of the people that I end up hunting with don't do, and it's something that I do, and it's something I really appreciate. And it's like you're constantly pointing out like the flora of the place, like around us, and then you're like stopping and you're picking stuff up, or you're pointing at stuff with your stick, or like I watched you like reach down, and like I didn't know exactly what you're doing. You were a little bit behind me, and I saw you like on the ground, and then you came up to me with this big smile on your face, and you like open up and show me this. It's a red spotted newt,
yeah,
which looks like a little dragon. Like it looks like a little baby dragon from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Like this bright, vibrant red-orange color, and they're everywhere, right? You also have these like giant snails that I kept like picking up.
Yeah.
You've got like the rock is like this mica stuff, that's fool's gold, right?
I think pyrite is technically fool's
Okay.
gold, but yeah, my granny she called mica fool's gold.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like
Yeah.
covering the ground, right? I mean, to the point that like the driveways are like
Oh yeah.
where I'm at, the driveways are made out of granite or not granite. Yeah, it'd be like granite and limestone, like rock, but you guys have like sparkly driveways, right?
Yeah.
See, I'm trying to think if I can rattle off all the other stuff you showed me. They're so like laurel, right?
Yeah.
Rhododendron, bear corn, ramps. Saw my first ramp because I don't live in ramp country, right? I've heard about it. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's like the hot, wild food.
Yeah.
We talked about May apples, right? We talked about Trillium. Showed me like a patch of pink lady slippers. Let me think. Hold up. What else was real cool out there?
Blue ghost, man.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get to the blue ghost. I was stoked that I got to show you that you could eat greenbrier, like
Yeah.
the sprigs of greenbrier.
Yeah.
And
I
then like,
think you got to eat sorrel because that tastes like wood sorrel.
Okay.
Is what it tastes like.
and then what about like mushrooms? Like you're about to switch. Your season ends tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you're tagged out in North Carolina already,
Yeah.
so you're done turkey hunting. But so you said you're going to switch to mushrooms, and
Yeah.
mushrooming is how you sliced your finger there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, what sort of mushrooms are you chasing?
Well, so what I found the other day, I mean, that was a very early flush of chicken of the woods. I mean, they should not be out typically right now. Usually for us, that's more of a late summer mushroom. But so kind of late June and then pushing into early July, we'll start getting some chanterelles. I really like looking for chanterelles. I really like looking for lobster mushrooms, black trumpets. Are probably, that might be my very favorite mushroom. We should be finding some morels right now. I haven't found any this year. Yeah, but everything kind of shifts in the summer to it's stuff that I don't enjoy as much as turkey hunting or as much as deer hunting. But it's ways to stay in the woods. And so it's a lot of foraging mushrooms. It's a lot of chasing flatheads, and it's a lot of gigging frogs.
Man, so I got this note thing going on my phone. And not writing down a lot. I mean, you can see what I've got, man. What I've been writing down here for this article is I wrote down like all the different plants that I want to talk about,
Yeah.
right? And then I wrote down a few quotes of yours. And I'm not going to say all of them, but I think the quote that references this is because I was asking you, I was like, man, what do you do? I knew about you and your bananas, right? Like I knew that because and I feel very honored that I was able to draw you all the way down to South Texas to hunt cranes last year. But you were eating bananas every day there, and you're like, man, I eat 2 bananas every day of my life. And then, so I watched it happen, man. Like I watched you eat your bananas in the morning, then you ran out, and then you're like, hey, let's stop at this Walmart so I can get some bananas. But I asked you, I was like, man, what does your day look like, right? And you said, I wake up, drink a pot of coffee, eat 2 bananas, and go in the woods.
Yeah.
And I said, when do you write? And you're like, oh, man, I'll do that this summer, man. I was like, you don't write every day? And you're like, oh, God, no, man.
Yeah.
Which was, like I told you, was real heartening to me. But so, yeah, man, like, this seems like kind of a trite, maybe like quaint question, but like, would you describe like a David Joy day to me?
Yeah. I mean, I usually get up somewhere around 6. It's usually somewhere right about, what often wakes me up is the very first bird noise. And a lot of times here, that's a wood thrush. But, whatever that first bird is, a lot of times that wakes me up. And so I get up then, I make a pot of coffee. While the pot of coffee's making, I'm usually standing outside. And I sit around, I do a lot of thinking in the mornings, drinking coffee. I'll read some in the mornings a lot of times. I'll read poetry in the mornings. If I'm really in a book, I'll read whatever that book is as I'm drinking that pot of coffee. And then, I eat 2 bananas. And when I say I go in the woods, I don't mean necessarily that I get in the car and drive somewhere and go walk a place out. I more go in the woods around my house, and I go listen to things. I go, see what the deer are doing that day, or what's coming up, what's going down. We was walking. I was trying to show you them ramps, and I hadn't even noticed because it happened so fast. Those ramps were turning and they were dying out. And it's little stuff like that. It's just the way the woods are changing every day. And I spend a good bit of time doing that. Once it gets kind of, especially this time of year, once it gets too hot to do anything outside, I come inside, and then that's when I do my, work, whatever that might look like for the day, whether it be emails or answering some things for an agent or for the publisher, or whatever that might look like. And then usually, somewhere around 5 o'clock, I'll start making supper. I usually cook about everything we eat, and I usually like to eat about 6. And then, we eat dinner, and we don't have television, and so a lot of times we're right back out on the porch, and I live in a place where I might as well be in a tent in a lot of ways. The house is obviously nicer and more comfortable than a tent, but in a lot of ways it's like that. You've been there. We're right in the middle of the woods. We're sitting on the porch, and I said, "There goes a red-spotted newt right there," and you were like, "Where?" And it's like right there.
Yeah.
Just walking right off the steps, and so yeah, I think that's what the average day looks like for me. Now, when I'm writing, it's very different. I think most people have this belief, and it's because you hear it over and over. It's like, if you want to be a writer, you have to write every day. It's like, man, I would absolutely blow my brains out if I had to do that. And I told you, I remember reading that Raymond Carver interview in the Paris Review once, in the Art of Fiction series, and he said, when I'm not working, it feels as if I've never written a word a day in my life. And the minute I read that, it was like, that's me. And then he said, but when I am working, he said, it's what John Asbury called the paddle wheel of days. It's just one day dovetailing into the next and into the next. That's very much me. So like once the work gets going, nothing else exists. Everything else goes away. And for however long that takes, it's almost like living in a dream world. A lot of times, like, your daily life doesn't change. So you still got to go to the post office. You still got to go to the grocery store. You still got to do all of these things. And, so often in those times, it's like I'm walking around the grocery store and none of it looks real to me. It's like illusory. It's like a hallucination. And it's because the world that I'm living in is a fictional world. And the real world becomes something else.
Yeah, dude, this
should be video because they need to see your face.
Well, no, it's just heavy stuff, man. It's also, I'll tell you else what I've been thinking, dude. I'll be totally honest with you. Is so I feel very like fortunate and privileged because I can tell you don't let very many people like into your sacred space, right?
No.
But then like there's been all this shit that went wrong, right? Like power went out the whole time, right? Yeah. Like both of us are fairly rank right now, right? Yeah. You've been like really stressing about your freezers and like all the meat that you harvested and like not wanting those to go bad, right? And I could just tell, I could watch your anxiety levels going up, right?
Yeah.
And you know what I was thinking is that it honestly would make most people uncomfortable. It didn't make me uncomfortable because I was like, honest to God, I was like, oh shit, this is what it's like to be around me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Really, that's what I thought, man. And I was like, this is what it's like to be around me, man, because like I have small children, right? So I don't have the luxury of like the routine that you can put yourself in, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's part of my issue too, man, is that I if I didn't have kids, and this is not a like, oh, my kids are a pain. I mean, my kids are the greatest thing in my life. But having kids like evokes a randomness in your life that I'm still not comfortable with, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, oh yeah.
When I was like stuck up in the mountains in East Oregon last year, I was like hunting by myself for 7 days. That's the most at peace I can remember being at in years, because I would wake up an hour before the sunrise, right? And I would like just get dressed, and I would creep to where I needed to creep, and I would hunt all day long, and I would, probably about 2:00, I'd either like fall, like no shit, I'd either fall asleep in like a field of wildflowers, or I'd go back to my van and like sleep for an hour or two, and then I'd go and try and roost some birds, and then I would like drink some Rainier beers, and then I'd go to sleep. Yeah. And it was like that paddle wheel analogy is very apt, right? But I can, like, you have you have like strong opinions on stuff, right? And you can be like, it's not confrontational. It's just, I mean, you called yourself brash earlier today, right? Which is like, I was talking the last podcast, I was talking to my homie Jason, man, and it is weird, man. It's like finding an aspect of like kindredness with somebody, right? Like, I get that. And then watching how Ashley interacts with you, and I told you, I was like, dude, I don't think I've ever seen a woman just let her dude be the way she lets you be. And you're like, she has to. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like,
and I don't mean that, negatively when I say that. It's just that, she's been around me long enough to recognize that, especially when I'm stressed, like I kind of require certain things. A lot of times it's when I'll give you the perfect example is like, you worked in a kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Here's why I could not work in a kitchen. I cannot multitask, and I cannot do 3 things at once. I can do one thing at once very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of do 2 things at once. The minute the third thing happens, my brain goes haywire. And that's so like I've learned to cook by timing. It's like, so this is going to be done at this point, and then I've got time to do this, but it allows me to focus on one thing, or perhaps 2, but never 3. And the same, my entire life works like that. And so like when there are lots of things happening, I can't absorb a little bit of it. I absorb it all. I walk through this world like a sponge, man. Like I walk into a room or I walk into a place and I absorb everything. And a whole lot of times that becomes incredibly overwhelming. And so, that's the biggie for me. That's where, I think a lot of the anxiety stems from. It's like a overabundance of information, and it's like my brain can't make sense of it.
Well, and I mean, you were like, and I asked Ashley, because you have this habit of like, you'll walk off like 50 yards into the woods, right? And you'll like, a lot of times you'll take something with you, like you'll take this like turkey wing or like a Yelper or something with you, and you'll like walk off, and you'll be gone for like a few minutes, and then you'll come back. And I asked her, I was like, is he getting pissed off about something? And she's like, no, man, he just has to go out there and kind of like calm himself down. He's getting overwhelmed and he's coming back. And when that happened the first time, because you and me had been hanging out, and then Ashley came, and then so like the dynamic changed, and there was like multiple people there, and then you started doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the whole reason I was bringing that up is because the reason I was like looking at you like that is because I've just like in today I've watched these changes in your presentation. Like this morning you were not happy this morning, right?
Yeah.
And then we got in the woods and you started chilling out. And then we got on that turkey and you got happy, right? And then we went and ate Mexican food and you're all good. And then now we're doing this, and I watched you kind of like kind of morph into Bobby Banana, right? Yeah. Well, I mean, you're kind of in your professional mode now.
Yeah.
But Man,
I think a lot of that's just I'm at my most comfortable
yeah.
there. Like even in the woods, I mean, I'm just, even if that bird hadn't gobbled, even if we hadn't gotten on a turkey, it was, I enjoyed every other part of that day. I enjoyed showing you, you said this is the most scratch I've ever seen in the woods, and I enjoyed getting to show you that. I enjoyed getting to show you that slope that's covered in pink lady slippers. I can tell you flat out that the majority of people in this region have never seen what you saw today with regards to that flower. And I'm talking about people who spend a lot of time in the woods. It just doesn't happen. Like the place that you were standing was very special. It's like the same thing with what you witnessed last night in the woods, when you went and went up onto my neighbor's property.
Yeah, so let's talk about both of those things, right? Because especially with the pink lady slippers, one of the things I think is so interesting about that is they're just like, at first glance, it's like a pretty thing, right? It's like a pretty delicate thing. But also, like that wasn't, I think when people think of like a really like impressive, like rare flower bloom, like they're thinking about like blue bonnets or something in Texas, or like just as far as the eye could see. And that's not what this was. I mean, this was like the intimacy of it is part of what made it special, right?
Yeah. And I think most of the flowers, especially the wildflowers here that I value, are kind of like that. I'm really drawn to like Jack in the Pulpits. I love that flower. It's a little early for those, but a rattlesnake orchid. That's one of my very favorite flowers, and it's actually it's kind of an ugly flower. I kept mentioning or waiting to point that out to you. Because rattlesnake orchid stays up year round, the leaves do, and it flowers once a year. But I love those leaves, and like my property's covered in those. It's subtle, and it's timing. It's like if you're here next month, you don't see those red spotted nudes. If you're here next month, you don't get to taste a ramp. You don't get to see the lady slippers. If you're here 2 weeks from now, you don't get to see the blue ghosts. And I love that. And I love it's spring. I think most people would attach the types of things we're talking about to spring, but it's not spring. It's like you get to see that with every season. It's like you asked me earlier, you were like, what's your favorite season here? And it's like winter. I love winter here. And I love it because you can finally see the mountains for what they are. Like you can see every contour. You can see the way that things lay out, the way that things pull together. I love all of that.
Man, so will you describe pink lady slippers?
Yeah. It's Yonic is probably is one of the words because it's very Georgia O'Keeffe-ish. But it's an orchid. The leaves that it usually sprouts in pairs. Usually, almost always a pair. Occasionally you'll see one by itself. But two large green leaves, kind of waxy feel green leaf, a really tall stem on the flower, and then it almost looks like a human heart hanging from a string.
Shit, dude, that's a great description. Yeah.
And like you said, very delicate. But there's yellow lady slippers too, and yellow lady slippers are actually, rarer. It's a lot harder to come across those. But it's the fact of how many there were where we were. Like, it is special to see a pair of pink lady slippers, once a year. What we saw when I first stumbled on that place, I was just dumbfounded. It blew my mind. I mean, there were groups of 8, there were groups of 5, and they were everywhere, all up through that entire little draw.
I think too, it would help people. I mean, like obviously someone can just Google this, but I like hearing auditory descriptions before I Google stuff. So, when you think of a flower, you think of like a daisy or something, right?
Yeah.
But this, like the stem of this thing goes up and then curves back down.
Yeah, like a shepherd's hook.
Yeah, like a shepherd's hook. And then this flower is hanging, like you said, like it looks like it's almost the exact same size as like a goose heart, like a speckled-belly heart or something, right? But it's not petals that like open out. It's like this kind of contained, like almost pitcher plant like thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it does, man. Dude, that human heart description is so good because it's kind of got like these. It's not Venus, but like kind of like it's like almost translucent a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It almost seems like you could poke it with a needle and it would deflate,
Yeah. I think absolutely.
But yeah, really, and I think the idea of an orchid, like people understand how delicate and temperamental an orchid is, right? But you said like in a couple weeks those won't be there, right?
Oh yeah, they'll be gone. And like there were a lot of them gone from that patch that were there when I first found them. Things just don't seem to last long here. Like even our growing season is super small, super short, and so everything's just the turnover time seems to be fairly fast here for everything.
Yeah, you're that's a neat aside. Is like the kind of ag that's places, So I come from a place with like our ag is, I would say traditionally the Delta would be cotton, right? There's not a lot of cotton left, but now it's like and people know Arkansas for rice, soybeans, but it's like big giant, like you're just driving down the highways and it's like huge open expanse as far as you can see, just like flat, zero grade fields, right?
Yeah.
But the ag around here is Christmas trees.
Yeah.
Which is, like that's actually like quite novel to me. Like most people don't even think about Christmas trees being like an agricultural product, but yeah, it's just, and it's not like these flat fields. It'll be like a place in the mountains where someone cleared all of it and then they've planted Christmas trees.
Yeah. And traditionally, it was cabbage. It was especially Jackson County. They grew a lot of cabbage. Western North Carolina is apple country. So you get to a county like Henderson County, super known for apples. If you jump a county over, you can have some different types of ags. The thing that separates Jackson County is just how severe our topography is. There is very little flat land here. There are some outside of the stretches along the Tuckasegee River. It's just steep here. If you go a county, west into Macon County, there's a lot more ag land. If you go a county, east to Haywood County, again, a lot more ag land. It's just where I am. There ain't a whole lot you could grow there, and cabbage kind of turned over into Christmas trees, and it's been Christmas trees for a long time.
Man, let's describe, or why don't you describe blue ghosts?
Yeah, so it's I heard Ashley yesterday say firefly. Nobody in my life ever said firefly. Everybody in my life said lightning bugs. But so it's a type of, or it's associated with a firefly or a lightning bug, although I think technically it's might not be a beetle. A lightning bug's a beetle. I'm not entirely sure that the blue ghost is, but just to kind of envision what we're talking about, imagine a lightning bug. But the difference is that they hover. They never get more than maybe 2 feet off the ground. They stay illuminated the entire time.
Yeah, they don't flicker like a lightning bug. They just glow.
Yeah, and they glow like a blue.
Yeah,
kind of a purplish blue. And they're not found very many places at all. Like I think that there may be other places in Appalachia where you can find blue ghosts, but the primary place that has historically held those insects is kind of Transylvania County, DuPont State Forest, and we're right against Transylvania County, in Jackson. We butt up to that as well. And so, we're fortunate enough to have those like right at the house. And I think one of the other cool things about them, when I told you where to go and what to look for, I said, whatever you do, don't turn on the light. They are so deeply attached to darkness, like complete pitch black darkness, that, any type of light disturbance ruins them. They seem to be attached really to moisture. Like when I texted my neighbor to see if he'd seen any, and the reason I texted him because we'd had that good rain, and they're typically going to come after that first good rain in May, and he went down there and looked, and he said, sure, he said, sure as shit, there's thousands of them, and he'd went and looked 2 days before, they weren't there, and they're only going to be there, week and a half, 2 weeks tops. They're only out for about an hour each night. It's typically about 9:30, and then by 10:30 it's done. But you get into those really dark, damp little drainages and draws, and you look up the mountain, and there are times it looks like water just pouring off of there, because they're coming down the mountain. That's the other thing. They're always traveling down the draw. And there's just all of these little pin pricks of light just hovering knee height, coming down the side of a mountain.
It's weird, man. They move very differently than like a firefly. It's and Ashley said, they look like fairies, and I was thinking that when I was looking at them yesterday, because I was just over there by myself in the dark, right? And and just Appalachia in general, right? There's this, I'm sure you could trace it back like to who settled Appalachia, right? And like, the people that settled Appalachia, right, would be like Irish and Scottish people, immigrants and stuff, right? We're talking about European settlers. But they brought with them like a mythology and folklore that like associated with that, like, it was like fairies were real big in that mythology, right? And I can absolutely imagine, man, like if you're living in a, in like a log cabin or something that you've scratched out on the side of this mountain, and you see this, dude, it would look like fairies floating around.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like, I'm trying to think something someone could associate it with. Like, it's like Tinkerbell. Like if you look at like Tinkerbell, like the new Tinkerbell, if anyone has kids and has seen like the newer ones, like it's fireflies flicker and kind of dart around.
Yeah, it's sporadic.
Yeah, these things stay illuminated, and it looks like they move like mist or something.
Yeah.
It was really pretty wild. But again, man, it's like something incredibly delicate too, right?
Yeah.
And I tried to take my phone out and like film it for my girls, and like it doesn't register. It's like you had to be there in that moment to see that.
Yeah, and I think there's something special about that.
Sure. Yeah. It's especially special now where everything is recorded and everything is put out for, mass consumption, right? And like that, literally, it could not be. And it was, so I tried to film it, and then I like put my phone down, and then I tried to film it again, and it was just like black, right? And so I just put my phone in my pocket. And so the only thing, like, there's no signal up there, right? There's no service. You can't make a record of it. Like the only thing there was to do was just like sit there and be with it, right? And then I went and slept in my car, next to a creek, and just, with the windows down, and it was I was just being in a place. That was also part of the thing about Oregon too, man. Like I didn't have service where I was at. I just had to like live, which
I find it surprisingly easy.
What do you mean?
to live by myself. Like when they're that, like so until recently, you know, we just got that. What's it called?
Starlink.
Yeah, we just got that. Until then, I didn't really even have internet, and so like if somebody wanted to talk to me, they had to schedule a time because I'd have to drive down the mountain to go get service to talk to them. I couldn't really do emails, but so like when I was there, you know, I didn't have to deal with other people, and I think you know when you're on a hunt, you know, or you're especially a longer hunt, like you know when I go to deer camp, it is so easy. It is so easy to get up and do the things that I, you know, am driven to do, and there's no outside expectations, and so for me, you know, I think that's the thing, you know, and I think maybe for you, you know, when you were in Oregon, and it's how easy it was for you to wake up an hour before the sunrise and to get to where you wanted to do, instead of, and that doesn't mean that you don't love those other aspects of your life, but when that morning is rushed by getting the lunches ready so that your kids can go to school, and then you have to do this, and then you have to go work on the remodel, and then you have, you know, all of these things stack up.
And you got to perform for people, you know, like I got to walk in with the kids. Hey, how are you doing? Hey, what's going on? You know, I don't want these people to know what an asshole I really am, you know, because I want them to be nice to my kids. Yeah. It's like I told you when Mary Ann and I lived on her family property for like 7 years. We lived in this old trailer, and in the trailer, I mean, dude, like we actually had a landline there, because in the trailer you couldn't get a cell signal. Like your phone could ring, but you couldn't speak on the phone. And if you wanted to talk to someone on the phone, you had to go out onto the porch. And it was like, man, I had to really want to talk to you, because I either had to sit out there and bake in the sun, or I had to freeze my ass off, right? Yeah. And so most of the time we just didn't talk to people. Yeah. And so we were just like at this place that was quiet, you know, sounded like deafening frogs during the summertime, right? Whippoorwills in the springtime. Wintertime was actually annoying because all the trees would fall off, and then you could hear the neighbor lady screaming at her mangy pack of dogs. But no, man, it's what I was thinking too is, you know, dude, you live a life that is, in some ways, it's not anachronistic, but like, it's a bit of a throwback, right? Like it's there's not a ton of people that are living with the rhythms that you're living with, right? But it's also like everything we're talking about, like the rhythm of your day, right? The you know, again, I don't mean this derisively, but like, you know, the peculiarities of yourself, right? It's like what someone wants out of an artist, right? Like it's dude, I used to get frustrated like when I played music, and I saw that what people wanted out of it is like, they wanted me to be really passionate about my music and fucking broke all the time. That made them feel better. Now, they weren't going to do that. They weren't going to be broke. They didn't want to deal with the stress of being like, can I put gas in my car? But when I started being like, when I wanted to get married to Mary Ann, and I was like, dude, I'd like to be able to buy this chick some curtains, you know? Yeah. I watched people get mad at me and like treat me like I was a sellout. And I was like, dude, you sold out 15 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, but it's just kind of a pleasure to observe, because it's so completely authentic, and we exist in such a realm of inauthenticity, especially with social media, right?
Yeah. I think for the vast majority of people, identity has become a projection. You know, it's a matter of you are what you post. Yeah. You know, and I think that's sad. I think it's very sad. I think that most people don't even really know what it is that they are, or what it is that makes them go. And that's something I've always understood, you know, very deeply. And it, there's a romanticism to that, but there's also like the backside of that is that that's not always a pretty thing. Like I would say that I'm selfish. I don't want to deviate from those things. And I would also say that I've been very fortunate to live a fairly charmed life. Because for a lot of people, it just wouldn't work out like that. They could try desperately, and it just wouldn't work out like that.
It'd be dude, it'd be terrifying for him.
Yeah.
I mean, and we talked, and you told me your least favorite thing to talk about is like money, and I got you to talk for like 45 minutes about it with me because like, you're at a different point, production and success wise, right? And I'm trying to figure out like, can I do this, or am I? If I keep trying to live this way, am I just a complete selfish asshole because I have children and a wife, right?
Yeah.
And so, but like to most people, and I keep saying this, but like to most people, the way that I live would be terrifying, right?
Yeah,
like the unsureness of it all would be terrifying, right? And then I'm like looking at you, and I'm like, shit, dude. That would be, David's on like a whole nother level of it, right? And I don't think that people that have more, like quote unquote traditional lives understand the wrestling you have to do with yourself to do it, right?
Yeah. I think that I am comfortable and that I'm satisfied by very little. Mm-hmm. Like I don't require very much. Like if I told, I told you, and I'll tell anybody that wants to know what I live off of. I pay myself $1,000 on the 15th, and how much do I pay myself on the 30th, Jonathan?
$1,000.
That's right, $1,000 on the 30th. I think that most people would be hard pressed to try to do everything that they need to do on $2,000 a month.
Or if they did do it. I mean, there's people that are living like that, but I think most people would feel like extreme depredation.
Yeah. But so for me, I've reached a point where I'm incredibly happy with what I have and the lifestyle that I have. And so if let's say that everything falls apart, I'm never able to sell another book, nobody wants to read me, everything falls apart, it's very easy to make that much money. What I require.
Yeah.
Like I could go on the way home today, I could pull into the Dollar General. I could ask that manager, can I come here and work tomorrow? And she'd say, please God, come in here.
Yeah, they're looking for people, right? Yeah.
Please God, come in here and help me stock these shelves. I know she would. And I would be all right. And so I guess I've never, we talked a little bit about why I don't have fears about those types of things either, and it was because I was raised by an artist. My mother was a potter. Now my father was an accountant. He had a good job, but my mother was a potter, and so every weekend we went to these craft shows, and I was surrounded by painters and ceramicists and sculptors and metal workers, and glass blowers and all of these people. And so you reach a point in your life and it's like, well, what do you want to be? And I say, I want to be a writer, and every, the average person's response is, well, how are you going to make a living? And that never computed, because of course I can make a living. I spent my whole life surrounded by people who were making livings off of the things that they love to do, and so that was always very easy for me. I've also, the last job I had, I've done nothing but write for more than a decade, and I'm 40 years old, so this is before I'm 30, but the last job I had, I'll never forget, the woman looked at me and she said, you are in no position to burn bridges. And I'm somebody who I'm never super quick-witted, like I never have a line. And that day I did, and I looked at her and I said, you can most certainly burn bridges when you have no intention of going back. And that's always been me. It's like, fuck you. burn the ships. This is the way.
Yeah.
And straight and I think all of those things combine to kind of create that personality of like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. If nobody buys the book, I'm still writing books because that's what I'm compelled to do. I don't write books to make a living. I'm fortunate to make a living by writing books, but that's not why I write them. I write stories because I'm compelled to tell a story. Mm-hmm. That's something that I don't see ever changing.
Well, I mean, one, I would say, like, for like that response to that lady, like, good for you, man. Because I think there's more people that need to hear that. Like, I got a buddy. Hell, he'll probably listen to this podcast, right? I remember a couple of years ago, I told him he's a fucking fantastic dude, man, and he's got a very different skill set than I have. But I said to him, I said, the difference between you and me, man, is I'll tell a motherfucker that they're a motherfucker to their face. And he was like, well, that's going to have an effect. And I was like, yeah, it's going to have the exact fucking effect that I want it to have, which is that person knows that I know they're full of shit. Yeah. They're going to have more than me. They might have a lot more power than me, but what they didn't do is get over on me. And I'm also like, it's not the only trait of my personality, but I am confrontational, right? Yeah. And that's a good thing and that's a bad thing. But like I want them to know, like, you didn't get over on me. Like, I've got another quote in here that you wrote down. Is you're talking about people that bought the lie. Yeah. Right? And I think that could be extrapolated in many different things. But when you're talking about making a living, like, to me, making a living is having enough to live. Yeah. It's not
excess.
I am not interested. I'm not interested in just being a fool, right? I have things, right? Like, but I'm not going to spend the best years of my life planning for my demise, which is how I feel a lot of people live. Yeah. And I told you that what influenced a lot of that was being a firefighter. And I've watched people die every imaginable way. You think of a way to die, I've seen it, right? Just old age, abuse, being smothered to death, having your head chopped off, burning to death in a fire, like flying off of, I've seen people jump off of buildings, all crazy stuff, right? And it's like, dude, you can do everything right. You can follow all the rules. You can, this playbook they give you, and this will happen to you, right? So like, I'm not willing to give the best years of my life to this promise of like, I get to go on a cruise ship. That sounds like hell on earth to me. Yeah. It doesn't sound like hell on earth to me, is like standing and seeing Blue Ghost. Yeah. I didn't know that those things existed 3 days ago. Yeah. And I might be one of the only people I know that ever sees them, right? Yeah. To me, there's value to that. And I'm not shitting on other people's lives, but I do think that maybe more what I'm doing is I'm trying to justify to myself and to other people that there's a lot of value in the folks that can wrestle with the discomfort or be content with not so much, so they can do the things they're compelled to do. Yeah. Because a dude told me years and years ago, I think in high school, a teacher said that there are people that maintain society and there are people that propel society. And to have a society, what you need is people to maintain it, right? These are the essential people. And that's like doctors, lawyers, people that build things, like, like build houses and work the roads, and teachers and lawyers and all that stuff, right? But for society to ever be anything different than it is right now, you've got to have the weirdos, right? And you got to have the outliers. And you have to have the people that, like, have you heard that Banksy quote that's like, the purpose of art is to give comfort to the disturbed and to disturb the comfortable, which is like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. it's not all about like shaking your fist at like some guy in a suit, you know. That doesn't necessarily mean that, but it means too, like, if you see a piece of visual art, and I'm not really a person who responds tremendously to visual art, but like, you know, when someone sees a painting and it like evokes a feeling in them, good or bad, but it creates some sort of
successful.
It creates some sort of discomfort, right? Yeah. Some sort of turbulence in them. And that makes them question and think and examine themselves. And maybe they still, on the outside, seem completely the same. But now maybe they have like that one extra facet in the prism of how they view the world that they're building constantly, right? And then that gets imparted in their worldview to the next person, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I was like, if I was an actor, I'd be like, scene, all right? And but I would like to talk to, and I would like to talk about, on whatever level you're comfortable with, this turkey hunt today.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, man, like what I've been trying to do is really stretch myself and learn, and I don't mean as like a statistician or something, right? Like I'm talking about in all the ways where you like absorb knowledge. Like there are tactics involved, but really you're just kind of like sucking up the essence of what this pursuit is, right? And so like last trip I went back to Mississippi and had all these big feelings about being in Mississippi and like the woods I was in and all this stuff, and hanging out with this really rad guy. And dude, we got whooped, right? But it was like I was okay with getting whooped because like for the last 2 days of that hunt, man, like we were on a bird. He was gobbling. We made a calculated decision for the last morning. He did turkey stuff and was on the other side of the creek. We were able to like get right up, inside his bubble, 75 yards from him when he hit the ground, right? Called in his hen. She sat there and looked at my decoy for 15 minutes, never moved. She was 20 yards away, right? And I know what he was doing. He hit the ground. He was totally silent. Didn't say anything for 15 minutes. And then a Canada goose flew over the top of him, honking, and it shot gobbled him. I was like, he's still there, right? And he would never respond to us. But then, he moved over. He assembly gobbled that hen back to him. They worked down. We like went down and went trying to get around him, and we like heard him again, and I knew where he was going, and he got to that creek bottom and he wouldn't leave. And I was like, I tipped my hat like, buddy, you won. I feel like if I stayed there for a week, I'd get that bird. But I had 3 days. And then same thing here. So like we hunted for
2 days, right? 2.5.
2.5 days. And at 10 o'clock today, I was like, man, I came all the way to North Carolina. I'm not even going to hear a gobble.
Yeah.
Right.
And what'd I say?
You said, man, it can change in the blink of an eye. And you even asked me, like, what are you thinking, man? We're going to have to go up here. These are mountains. Like, you're going to have to go up here. And it's like a bunch of walking if we're going to get over here and try and skirt the edge of this private here. And I told you, I was like, man, it ain't. You said, are you just whooped? You too tired? And I said, man, it ain't about being tired. I said, I'll just be honest with you, dog. It's like, I'm getting tired of getting my ass whipped by turkeys, man. Like I've been hunting turkeys. What's the date today? Do you know? The 11th, 10th?
I don't know. Let's see, the 10th.
The 10th. So I started hunting turkeys on the 30th of March. And I've hunted 4 states. I've killed 1 turkey. And I have not seen a turkey strut or put on any sort of show, right? And it just today, man, it was just kind of wearing on me. I was just like, I got stuff to do. My kid's got a ballet recital tomorrow. I got to drive 12 hours. I was like, maybe I ought to just start pointing that direction. And so then what do we do? Take it away, Banana. What do you call you, Billy Banana?
No, Bobby Banana.
Oh, sorry, man.
That's my stage name.
Yeah, Billy Banana is a fraud who's stealing your act.
Yeah, no, man, we got one to gobble. And late in the morning. I mean, it was probably 10:30, and I told you that bird was probably there. You know, when we went up the mountain, I told you that where that bird probably was, and he was there. Now, he hadn't made a noise the whole morning.
And visually, I mean, you're talking about, I took a little bit of film that I'll put up on Instagram. I mean, scratching everywhere on this mountain, man.
Yeah.
Like we found fresh hen shit.
Yeah.
It's like you knew, you had been in there a few days before. You knew there were 3 gobblers in there.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing, man, is I keep being in places where I know there's birds and they just won't talk.
The thing about that here, I think one of the differences is that sign is very isolated. Like you can walk for a very, very long time and you won't see anything. And then you know, even you think about that mountain, like that sign was in, 3 very distinct places.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd heard those birds in there, before. But yeah, I think most people would have already left. A lot of people go into a lot of quote unquote turkey hunters go in the woods, and if they don't get one off the roost, they head back to the truck and go to Hardee's.
Yeah.
And the other day, we were talking about, my favorite time is that, that 9:30 to 11:30, but especially that 10 o'clock window. I've had a lot of luck on birds then, and that's early season or late season like it is now. But yeah, we got that bird to gobble, and we got him to, late season I switch a lot of tactics around, and it's because there's not hen talk in those woods. There may be the occasional Jenny hen that ain't on a nest or something like that, but for the most part, those hens are on a nest. And so if I do hen calling, a lot of times it'll be things that might not make a lot of sense to other people, but it'll be something like a nesting hen when something gets close to her, a lot of times will get up and pace back and forth, cutting hard. If something gets close to her, especially if she thinks another turkey's getting close to her. It's like that's the type of hen calling that I would do late season.
How did you find that out? Did you witness that?
Oh yeah, I've observed it, dozens of times. Another hen, and usually it happens when you're hen calling. You're hen calling. She thinks you're a hen. You're getting too close to her nest. She gets up. She does not like it, and she doesn't come at you. It's a pacing back and forth, just cutting. I've heard a lot of fights this time of year, but I switch a lot to male bird talk, a lot of gobbler yelps, Jake yelps, and so that's what we did today, and that's what he responded to.
Can you real quick? Can you describe the difference in? Because I think most people just think like yelp it.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about like male bird yelps, what that means?
A male bird yelp is slowed down, so it's yelp, 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 yelp. But with a Jake, it's that plus the fact that he's like a pubescent teenager who is just finally starting to get a deep voice, and so it's almost like. There's almost like a robotic sound to it, like because it's high, low, it's all over the place. But the timing of it is yop, yop, and a lot of times he'll fall off timing. It's like he doesn't have the right meter. He's not like a hen is always pretty consistent. Dot dot dot. Yop 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 yop, and he's yop 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 yop. He's all over the place. But it's primarily just slowing it down. And so like you think about even that turtle shell call that you had, and you asked me, and I said, it sounds really jakey. I said, you ought to just slow those yelps way down and Jake yelp on it. I think that call to me would sound better like that. But the reason that you're switching those styles of call is that the thing that is happening now is a reassembly of male birds. And so in this particular place, what typically happens is that those birds go high. And I think they do that for 2 reasons. I think one, they're chasing the last green up. And so like the final green up is taking place at the highest elevations. And so there's a lot of fresh greens there. The insects are just getting there. There's a lot of, things to eat there. But I think the other thing they're doing is they're getting high so that they can cast calls. And those male birds start getting back together. And suddenly you see, two gobblers together that 2 weeks ago would have killed each other. Or you see a gobbler running around with 2 or 3 jakes that, again, a few weeks ago, they would have killed each other. And so those birds start getting back together, and they're going to stay together the rest of summer. They're going to stay together the rest of fall. And then as those hens start getting back together in fall, eventually you're going to move towards a winter flock, and then all those birds are going to be back together by late winter, before the next year's event where they bust apart again. But what's happening in those woods right now is that all those male birds are trying to get back together. And so it makes sense that's what you're trying to emulate a lot of times. And with that bird in particular, that bird gobbled to that. But when we finally had a moment where if things had played out differently, and if you'd have been on a tree 20 yards away, or if instead of sitting you'd been standing, that bird's dead. And he would have died to hen calling.
Yeah.
And so what ultimately happened was we backed out around that ridge. We tried to get in behind a ridge where I knew he couldn't hear us, and we got to where I thought he would go. We got up there, and I continued that male calling, and it became very evident that it was pushing him away. And that's something that I've encountered a lot. And, I was in a position where I couldn't hear him as good, but you could hear him good, and you were giving me directions of where he was. And you said he was going further away. And so at that point, I told you with turkey calling, you should always be telling a story. And so the story became those 2 male birds that he thought he'd been listening to started going down the ridge and off the ridge away from him, because now he feels safe to go to where he was wanting to go the whole time. And so that's what I did. I made it seem like those birds were leaving. Sure enough, he gobbles, and at that point I start hen calling to him, directly at him, so that he knows she's responding to me. And then he did that classic skirt move, where he indicates, some sort of line of travel, and you think he's going this way, and then he doubles back on it, and comes from you sideways, and I told you, I said, next time you see Ashley, I said, ask her, what's the most important thing in turkey hunting? And we could walk out we're at her office recording this, we could walk out there and ask her right now, and I can tell you what she's going to say. She's going to say setup is everything. And it is. Because if it's a 20-yard difference, you kill that bird. And that's my fault. That's my fault. You'd never been there. If you're standing up, we didn't talk about that.
I'd been, you know what, man? It occurred to me, not in that specific scenario, but I think yesterday I was going to ask you, man, do you ever kill turkey standing up?
Yeah, Raymond does a lot.
Really?
And in the mountains, I think in particular, it becomes, and it's so counterintuitive because the way you're taught, you ask any first-year turkey hunter, okay, you hear a bird gobble, what's the first thing you do? Well, I try to find, what tree I'm going to sit at. I try to find a tree that's wider than my shoulders. Well, I do this, I do that. But the rule is always that you sit at the base of the tree, when a whole lot of times you're at a much better tactical advantage to be standing. And Raymond is someone who does that a lot. And
wait, tell them they don't know who Raymond is.
Yeah, so Raymond is just a hunting buddy of mine. He's a little bit older than, he's 20, maybe 23 years older than me, and he has killed a pile of turkeys. I mean, hundreds of turkeys, and
in the South.
Yeah, all in the South, and back when there was lots of birds and big limits. But primarily here in the mountains. But so one of the reasons that you stand in the mountains is a lot of times the way that ridge laid out, where you were sitting, you couldn't see but 20 yards in front of you.
Yeah.
And he was just off the back side of that. And if you stand, you'd have been able to see him. And that's really a mistake on my part, more than anything else.
Man, it was I tell you what, man, the way that all went down, like what I learned from watching it, what I learned from walking around the woods with you, man, like it was absolutely. I mean, like I even told you when we were texting before I came, man, we were talking about the weather and everything. And I was like, man, if I just get to hang out with you and like walk around your woods, man, like that's good enough for me. And I meant that, but I still meant like I want to kill a turkey, right?
Yeah.
But like I actually do mean like, dude, this was it's not just that it was enough. It was like it was a fulfilling experience, right? The whole thing. Having that encounter today, I was like, oh, man, I got what I came for. I got more than what I came for. Like I just stepped up. I haven't had enough time to think about this, so I'm not choosing the words right. But I think today catapulted my understanding of this, enigmatic creature a little bit more. Like
to me, man, the thing, I mean, when we left that mountain, I was smiling bigger than I'd smiled the entire time you've been here.
Yeah.
I enjoyed getting beat by him. Now, there were multiple times in that hunt where I was behind you, I was staying behind you trying to pull that bird onto you, and there were multiple times I saw you get the gun up onto your shoulder, and every time that happened, I thought, oh, dear God, he can see him. And I thought any minute it's going to blow my ears out. And I was so excited to see that happen, and I wished it had happened. But at the same time, I was not a bit disappointed by that turkey. I actually I like it better that he won, because that was not some young dumb bird.
Yeah.
That was a bird who understood the very real danger that he lives in at every moment of his life, and he did not make mistakes. He did not make a mistake.
Yeah.
And
he forced us to make a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's. I've been telling you about that quote from that guy on that podcast I listened to recently, and I found it on my phone. But the guy's name's George Mayfield, and he hunted with Ben Lee. He hunted with all kinds of people, and he's killed a pile of birds. But what he said is he said, I've gotten about where if I don't know a turkey, now don't misunderstand me, but I want to hunt a turkey that I know. If I had my choice, I'd take one that way rather than 100 the other way, just shooting them when they run up there. It's just something about the experience and having a relationship with a turkey over time and getting beat makes it so sweet when you kill one like that. It's a sad gladness, relief kinda, but it's not all high-fiving and rolling in the straw when you kill one like that so good, I promise you. And that's what I like. Like, that bird beat us, and I about bet that bird will be in that same area next year, assuming that a coyote doesn't get him, a bobcat doesn't get him, he doesn't get hit by a tractor trailer.
It's called Catamount, man.
Yeah, he doesn't get hit by a tractor trailer. But those are the birds that I love. It's opening day of season, South Carolina. I had that bird. That I finally got turned around, got him to leave his hens. He come back to me wanting to fight. I watched him come 300 yards across a burnout ridge. When he got to 75 yards, he never, ever let any air come between me and him. He stayed behind trees. I needed him to make one step right or left is all I needed, and he never did it. And he got to 8 yards, and at 8 yards, I heard him putt, and I heard wings, and out of there he went. Never had a shot opportunity. And there's a lot of things that I think I could have done different, but he beat me that day. jump forward to, you know, the day before the last day of that season, and I'm back in there, and I'm back on that bird, and I get it done. I know I got it done. I know it was that bird, and it was, you know, there have been birds that I've chased for years, you know, for 2 or 3 years, and didn't get killed. You know, there was a bird that beat me for, you know, I think it was 3 years, and one day I took Ashley in there, and it was the only time I ever just got a really good visual on that bird, but we walked up on him and boogered him out of there. But that bird, he always won. I like it. I like that.
Dude, it's and that's the thing, man. I'm finally understanding that this season. That's what I'm saying. My understanding of it is broadening. It's a difference between. It's like the difference between like spring break hookups and like a passionate love affair with someone. You know what I mean? Like it don't mean, and that's why I keep telling you, easy turkeys are still fun. Yeah. Like it doesn't make the spring breakup hookup not fun, but like what, you know what I mean? Like what motivates the human spirit is that love affair. It's like the passionate love affair. You know, like the person that you've danced with and argued with and like been so close to like ending it, and then like it works, right?
Oh yeah, and I mean, just if I could have recorded, if I could have taken a picture of you 5 minutes before, just beaten, you were just beaten.
Yeah, I was whooped, man. Yeah.
You know, and if I could have, and then when I got that bird to gobble for the first time, and
dude, I lit up, dude.
Oh, dude, and you looked at me, and I said. And I had heard the gobble, but I couldn't tell where it was. And I said, "Do you know where it was?" And your eyes were just lit up, and you were pointing, and you were like, "He was right there. He was right there."
Yeah.
And you know, we're experiencing the turkey decline here that most areas are experiencing across the rest of the Southeast. You know, we don't have the birds that we've historically had. We've reached a point where if you're going to do this, you're going to go days without hearing birds, you know, and I'm talking walking. I'm talking, you know, I might cover, you know, 10 miles and not hear a bird, never strike a bird. And then he gobbles, you know, and the whole world changes again. You know, that's the thing that drives you, you know.
Dude, I will tell you this, man. It is like the closest thing I compare it to, man, is like a romantic relationship. You cannot, or like having children or something. You can hear all these cliches, right? You hear this all the time, man. Oh, that bird, I felt it in my soul. You know, like all this stuff, right? It doesn't mean a damn thing until you actually get in this, right?
Yeah.
And as much fun as it is being like, I even told you, man, I took a minute, I looked on Instagram and like a dude I gave a pin to, man, I just saw him and his buddies went there. They killed 7 turkeys in 3.5 days. And you were like, that doesn't impress me. That doesn't impress me at all. And I was like, dude, I get it, man, but I want the action. But
yeah. Well, and to be fair, the reason I said, you know, when you were describing that place, you said, we can go there and we'll see 40 birds in a field in the springtime, and
which is unnatural.
Absolutely unnatural. Those birds should not even be together like that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's like, I mean, I don't want to dismiss. I most assuredly don't want to dismiss those hunts because I've never been on them. I've never been there. I've never witnessed it. But what I can tell you is that if I never got to hunt anything but the North Carolina mountains and all it was easterns and whitetails the rest of my life, I'd be perfectly content with that. And I would know that I was, you know, that it was, I don't know, that it was a quarry that was worthy of my pursuit.
Yes. It's spring break versus Shakespeare. You know what I mean? And it's like, dude, I feel like I just participated in King Lear, you know? And that's like heady. Honest to God, I don't think you could endure it as a human being 12 months out of the year. I don't think you could. You couldn't hunt an animal like that 12 months out of the year.
No.
It would destroy you.
And especially the minute they shut up.
Yeah. It would it would turn you into a drunk or something, man. Like you'd have PTSD. But man, when you were saying some stuff, I really should have ended the podcast on like this really beautiful note, and then I like brought my damn spring break comparison into it, and that's me cleaning up what I'm really trying to say. But shit, dude, I'll do my little thank you spiel here, man. And you know what's so interesting is like, I mean, we've been all up. You know, I've been all up in David. I was about to say I've been all up in your guts, man. That feels so weird.
No,
I've been like really in your space, man. And you know, we never shook hands when I pulled up at 5:30 in the morning. Like I can tell
we had somewhere to be.
Yeah, but I can tell you ain't a hugger, like all that stuff, dude. But like if I could. So I'm just saying that because I feel like this is what I'm about to say to you is this is what you will accept from me, right? And so what I would say is I'm very aware of how special it was that you welcomed me into your space and you not just your home, but like your woods, like these sacred places to you, man. I know how special that is, and I'm like am truly appreciative of it. I'm really appreciative of your willingness to let me draw you into some stuff that I know made you like uncomfortable or caused anxiety. And I mean like dude, I really, really appreciate it, man. And I feel like I'm better for it, and I feel like the people in my circles and my bubbles will be made better for it too. So like, thanks a bunch, Doug.
Absolutely.
And man, do you wanna pimp some books, man?
No
books.
No.
I mean, what's the last book? Let's tell them your most recent book.
My last novel was called Those We Thought We Knew, but man, this is a hunting podcast.
No, it's not. This isn't a hunting podcast.
Well, we're talking about turkey hunt. So if you're going to buy a book, you know, we was talking about, especially about, you know, the history of value of turkeys here, man. You got to go find Simon Everett's book, you know, Tales of Wild Turkey Hunting, I think was the name of it. You know, but Simon Everett kind of made famous the Roanoke Yelper, which you know me, I'm a Yelper man through and through, which is just a really cool, you know, old turkey call. And a lot of cool history. So, like, if I was going to end this podcast by telling you to go buy a book and track down a book, it'd be that book. You know.
Well, here's how I really want to end it. Will you? This seems so incongruous with everything we've been talking about. But I told you what that opening line that you wrote is that I think is like one of the greatest opening lines I've ever read. Would you just recite it in your voice for people to hear?
Yeah, Darrell Moody didn't give a wet sack of shit what the state considered poaching.
David Joy, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening. Until next time.